Every few years, governments discover a new danger on the internet. And every few years, the first political instinct is the same. Build a wall. This time, the wall is aimed at teenagers. The argument sounds simple enough. Social media is addictive. Algorithms are too powerful. Parents are overwhelmed. So the state should step in, verify age, and block children from entering. It is a clean solution. It is easy to explain. And it gives voters the feeling that something decisive is being done. But digital systems rarely work like physical spaces. You cannot regulate a network as if it were a school gate, a cinema entrance, or a nightclub door. The real question is not whether governments should protect teenagers. Of course they should. The harder question is how. Should the state try to lock teenagers out of social media entirely, or should it force platforms to redesign the systems that make these spaces addictive, manipulative, and difficult to leave? That is the question behind the new global push to ban teen social media. The global push to ban teen social media, block them, or teach them to navigate.
Around the world, a political consensus is hardening. Teenagers should be barred from social media. Australia has already moved to prohibit anyone under 16 from holding an account. France is currently pushing similar legislation through its National Assembly, aiming to enforce a strict 15-year age limit. The UK is following the same blueprint, moving to block access for everyone under 16. In South Korea, lawmakers are drafting bills to restrict youth access and hold platforms legally accountable for their younger users. The motivation behind these laws is clear. Highly tuned algorithms and infinite feeds have reached a scale that often overwhelms traditional parental discipline. The proposed solution is to build a digital wall at the entrance of these platforms, a gate designed to verify age and deny entry to the young. While this sounds like decisive political action, it misinterprets the mechanics of how digital architecture works. Examining the blueprints for this digital wall reveals a structural flaw in the logic of total prohibition. Complex software and algorithmic problems cannot be solved by applying physical world lockdown tactics to a network. Rather than keeping kids out, a digital wall forces them to find unofficial ways to enter, creating entirely new dangers in the process. We can see how this wall holds up in reality by looking at early data from Australia's enforcement efforts. The barrier fails quickly. Teenagers use VPNs to disguise their location, or supply fabricated birth dates to slip past the gate. Others simply borrow a parent's device or use adult profiles to bypass the identity check. When a 13-year-old can bypass a technological barrier in minutes, the policy effectively expires, remaining as nothing more than a temporary speed bump. To successfully filter out teenagers, a platform would have to technically verify the exact age of every single user on the site, including adults. This requires everyone to hand over government IDs, submit to facial biometrics, or route their identity through a centralized verification hub. In 2012, South Korea attempted this with an internet real name system that mandated identity checks for all users. The system was struck down as unconstitutional. The court found that mandating ID checks crushes adult privacy and the right to anonymous expression. It is legally and ethically impossible to construct a flawless digital wall for kids without also dismantling the digital privacy of every adult. There is also the balloon effect, where squeezing one end of a problem makes it bulge elsewhere. Korea's 2011 game shutdown law, which banned late-night gaming for minors, is proof of this. The ban didn't stop gaming, it simply pushed teenagers into unregulated shadow environments and mobile networks. For children who are physically sick, marginalized, or socially isolated, these platforms function as a primary lifeline to a peer community. When teenagers bypass the wall to find that connection, they do so through unofficial channels, losing the basic safety protections that were supposed to be there in the first place. Since we cannot effectively lock the front door, we must focus on redesigning the machinery inside the building. Platforms must be required to make minor accounts default to private, while location tracking and targeted ads are prohibited for children. We need to shatter the addictive loop by restricting recommendation algorithms and disabling the infinite scroll, giving teenagers a clear endpoint to their consumption. This requires co-regulation, a system where educators, government, and the tech industry share the responsibility for designing these spaces. Securing these spaces requires a shift in focus toward the internal digital architecture, prioritizing the safety of the machine over the strength of the lock. The most effective layer of protection is teaching the user's mind to filter what the algorithms provide. Governments are currently regulating disruptive generative AI with gradual, nuanced frameworks, Yet they are attempting to abruptly blockade social media. Digital literacy and algorithmic awareness are lifelong skills, whereas an age verification ban simply expires the moment a teenager turns 16. True protection comes from holding tech companies accountable for their architecture while teaching citizens how to navigate it safely.